Hello, and welcome to another episode of Adamo Baseball, where I'm your host, Adamo. And in this episode, I'm going to be talking about the Toronto Blue Jays, and what I think is going to happen to or because of them in 2021. So for starters, their flaws are obvious if you look deep enough, but the potential is obvious too, and you don't have to look too deep for that. So I think that this team, I think they'll finish second in the American League East as long as they hold up. I don't see a reason why they shouldn't, and I think that they should hold up. Now, it's possible that they won't, but I do. They've got a pretty solid lineup, really good rotation. There's a couple of holes in it, like definite holes, but the top of the rotation is really, really good. And then their bullpen could be make or break for them. I've seen teams win without a good bullpen, but usually those teams, their relievers step up to the challenge in October. So that could be a thing for them. I don't think they'll win a World Series this year, but I do believe that they will make the playoffs. Last year they made the playoffs as the 8th seed because of a lack of competition. This year I think they'll make the playoffs as either the 4 or 5 seed because they actually are good enough to make the playoffs this year. I think that they will be in a tight competition with the Red Sox now that I've done more research on the Blue Jays. I'm sticking with my guns. I'm not changing my picks for the American League East standings. I think that the Jays will still finish second and the Red Sox miss the playoffs. So I guess I'd have to say that the Jays are probably going to finish 5th overall in the American League. Have to travel probably to Minnesota, that's my guess, for the playoffs, and they'll probably be one and done. Not necessarily that they'll be one and done because their pitching can't do it, because they certainly have a guy that can win on the biggest stage, but I think that they'll finish, or I think they'll be one and done because I think years and years of Minnesota not winning a postseason game is finally going to come to an end. Again, I always make this disclaimer. It all depends on how well their players hold up. Their one main flaw, almost everyone on the team, specifically the lineup, they have one solid flaw. They strike out a lot. Don't be surprised if the 2021 Toronto Blue Jays set an American League record as a team for most strikeouts in one season. I don't want to see anyone break that record, unless you're wearing pinstripes. Yes, those pinstripes. But I think the Blue Jays actually can have that happen to them this year. But I also see them putting a lot of hits out of the park this year too. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it. This is the latest information I have as of 13 February 2021. So it's possible they can make some changes between now and the beginning of the year, or even spring training, when I release this episode on March 1st. So don't be surprised by that. But so starting off, easily one of the guys that got the Astros to the World Series, scandal notwithstanding, George Springer, center field. Do I really need to go too in depth into this guy? He is one of the guys that took the Astros to the World Series. Even after the scandal broke, he still had a pretty good 2020. he is one of the guys that got them within a game of the World Series last year. I mean, all things considered, he was one of the reasons. So don't be surprised if he has a really good year, that he has 30-plus home runs again, scores over 100-plus runs, and usually leadoff guys aren't going to have 100-plus RBIs, but they may move him in the lineup so that he can. So the second guy in the lineup, I've got him listed as a second baseman, which he can play most anywhere in the infield. And he's pretty much made himself a career in Oakland. It doesn't surprise me that he went to Toronto so that he can, well, A, see greener pastures, literally, and get some more money because Oakland is very famous for not paying people. Marcus Simeon. He's one of the guys who took Oakland to the AL West Division title last year and has been a consistent force in Oakland for the last several years. So, yeah, don't be surprised if Marcus Simeon has a pretty good year in the two-hole. In fact, he's one of the few guys who probably strikes out the least out of everyone in the lineup. So, yeah, don't be shocked if Marcus Simeon has a pretty good year. Third, Bo Bichette, shortstop. I saw him play his rookie year. He's only got 75 games under his belt. I think that he's actually going to have I think he could have a breakout year this year. He's finally going to get to play the whole season because his rookie year, he only got to play, I think, 40 games. And then last year he played about half the season-ish. I could be inaccurate on the exact numbers, but this should be his first season as a full-time starter. If my stats are correct, he could be up for Rookie of the Year this year. I don't know if he had enough at-bats last season. I don't know how they did it. If he did not qualify as a rookie last season, then he could be a rookie this year and can qualify as Rookie of the Year. Don't be surprised if Bo Bichette ends up having that standard. So, batting cleanup is Teoscar, I guess I'm saying that right, Hernandez, right field. He's a guy that strikes out a lot. He's got some power. If he didn't, he wouldn't be batting cleanup. But he strikes out a lot. So, really, it depends on how often he puts it out of the park as to whether or not he's going to be a productive cleanup hitter. They may flip him with number 5. It's not going to be hard to figure out why number 5 is number 5. But it really depends on how much power production they get out of Hernandez. I think he could be successful. Of what I saw, it looks like he actually does have quite a bit of power. It depends on just if he's missing on strike 3 a lot. Number 5, the designated hitter. And go figure as to who the designated hitter is. Son of Hall of Famer senior, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Yeah, he's pretty good. Like, he is a very sound hitter. I don't know if he's the same contact hitter that his dad was, but he's established himself as his own type of player, not trying to live in his dad's shadow or his legacy. He's his own. And he does have power. He can hit. He also strikes out a lot. Go figure. As I caveated at the beginning of this episode, in spite of the fact that the word caveated is not a word, because caveat is not a verb. Number 6, Kevin Bisgio, the other son of a Hall of Famer on this team. Kevin Bisgio plays third base. he again strikes out a lot, but he's also got a lot of power. He plays a solid third base. Not the best third base in the world, but solid. And I think that he actually could have a really good year. I don't necessarily think he's going to have a breakout year, but I think this will be a good building year for him. Number 7, Lourdes Uriel, left field. He played one season in Houston before Toronto. He's kind of had trouble getting going. And batting 7th in the lineup, you really don't expect that to be too much better. But, hey, it could be better. Like, he definitely could be going in the right direction. I vaguely remember covering him last year. When I was doing the Blue Jays episode a year ago, I do kind of remember talking about him just a little bit, this much. And hey, if you're playing left field, you're usually there because you can hit. Usually for power. So maybe, just maybe, he'll be that guy. Number 8, Rowdy Teles. I have no idea if I'm saying his name correctly. First base. Apparently, he also DHs on days when Vlad Jr. isn't, or Vlad Jr. is playing first base. Though Vlad will usually play first base if they're doing interleague. Rowdy, I'm just going to call him Rowdy because I don't want to keep saying his last name wrong if I am. Looks like he's there for defensive purposes. Mostly just making sure that he can retrieve ground balls, which is kind of the point of first base. You're not trying to cover a bunch of ground, not unless you're playing an away game in Oakland, in which case you got the biggest foul territory to cover of anyone. I think that, again, strikes out a lot. Looks like he's on the team for defensive purposes. Number 9, Danny Jansen, their catcher. So what I saw, he is definitely on the team because of his catching ability and being able to control a rotation, or at least handle a rotation. You don't really control them. I think he could be, or I think that's the whole point to him, his position. I've made it clear in the past that catchers are on the team for what they do behind the plate, not beside the plate. Putting a catcher 9th in the lineup means that you're pretty sound pretty much everywhere else on the field in terms of hitting, at least for the most part. You don't really have to worry about whether or not they can pump it out of the park, because it really doesn't matter. So that's the lineup as a whole. Again, there's a lot of strikeouts, but there's also a lot of home runs here too. Major League Baseball has had a ton of home runs hit over the last decade or so by pretty much everyone. And I think the Blue Jays are going to be the epitome of that. There's going to be a lot of home runs. There's going to be a lot of strikeouts. They could eclipse the 800 runs scored mark. This will definitely be an offensively driven season, and I think that they're going to be making some trades at the deadline to try to move the team probably in a more offensive direction, or they could try to trade for a pitcher so that they can make their run at the postseason, and I think that they got a legit shot at it. The rotation, this is where it gets... Alright, I mentioned that their top is really good. They're going to need some veterans to play like their younger selves. So, look, top of the rotation, Hyunjin Ryu. Dude's a Cy Young candidate. Don't be shocked if he's getting Cy Young props this season. He's one of the best pitchers in the American League, and deservedly so. He spent all those years in LA pitching behind Clayton Kershaw and sometimes pitching better. So don't be surprised if Ryu pitches to his full potential this season. Number 2, Robbie Ray. I couldn't find on... I actually used ESPN this time. I used RotoChamp for the lineup. I used ESPN for the rotation and the pitching staff. I could not find him, which is odd because it's a very common name. If you're pitching second in the rotation, there's a reason for that. So he's probably pretty decent, but don't quote me on that because I need to find out more about him. Third, okay, this is a weird one. Nate Pearson. So when I looked up him on ESPN, it had him listed as a relief pitcher. But when I looked at him on RotoChamp, it had him listed as the third guy in the rotation. I don't know what to believe. If the Jays try to make a trade, they'll probably replace number 3 in the rotation, whoever they trade for, and put Pearson back in the bullpen. Because it does not appear as though he's the greatest pitcher. Actually, he's not that good of what I researched, but I also have no idea how he is as a starter. So, could be different. Number 4, I talked about this guy last year, and frankly, Tana Roark. I double-checked his stats just to make sure I wasn't going crazy. He was in Washington for 6 seasons. 4 of those 6 years, he was pretty good. Not great, but good. 2 of those years, he was bad. And pretty much ever since he's left Washington, he has not been good. He played a season in Cincinnati where, it was not good. He played last year in Oakland, and he was not good. Personally, I put him 5th in the rotation, but I don't know why the Blue Jays picked him up. Maybe they just needed a guy, so they signed him. I think that's what's going on there. Number 5, this is one of the guys I think could actually have a really good year. Steven Matz. He is one of the guys that took the Mets to the World Series in 2015. Yeah, they lost, and he only started 10 games that year. But he was one of the guys that got him there. And because he was behind Jacob DeGrom and Noah Syndergaard, no one really noticed Steven Matz. He actually did a pretty good job for a lot of years. He had some bad years. There's no denying that. He had some bad years. So, he could... I think they may move him up to 3rd in the rotation. I think he's going to do a really good job this year. I don't know why. I just got a hunch. I think Steven Matz is going to have a really good year this year. Call me crazy, but it'll be worth it if he is. And I think it makes sense to believe that he could have a pretty good year. Now here's where it gets interesting. Their bullpen and their closer. So last year, Kirby Yates was their closer. He had three good... So he was in San Diego for 4 years. He's been in the league for a while. First few teams he played for, he was not good. He had 4 seasons in San Diego. So 3 of them were good. 2 of those 3 were phenomenal. That last season, he had 41 saves. I think I remember covering him too. But he was in Toronto last year. He did not pitch well at all. He was actually replaced as the closer by Rafael Dolis. And it's looking like Rafael Dolis is going to be the closer in Toronto this year too. But they could go back to Yates if they get a lot of the stuff a lot of the issues that he had last season cleared up in spring training. But also you have to look at it as it's 2020. So they're probably going to go with Rafael Dolis, who I looked up. He's pretty good. At least so far, he's pretty good. And he may retain the role, but they may stick with Kirby Yates, but they also could end up having, competition there, which makes sense, but I don't necessarily know that it will. I only picked one guy out of their bullpen, Jordan Romano. He looks like he's a pretty good closer, or relief pitcher. I don't know how long he can stand in the game, but if he's a good long reliever, we could be hearing his name spoken by, different broadcasters and announcers throughout the season. Now, I may be getting ahead of myself there, and if I am, I'll be the first to admit it. But he actually could be a pretty solid pitcher. So, while there's clear holes in their rotation, the top of it's very good. And if Jordan Romano can pitch more than 1 or 2 innings in a given game, then they may not need Tana Roark or Nate Pearson to go longer than 4 innings if absolutely necessary. They could put Jordan Romano in for 3 or 4 and then hit the back end with either Kirby Yates or Rafael Dolis, or have one of them pitch the 8th if necessary, in which case they got a game plan. You can't do that 162 games out of the year. That's no secret. What you can do is do that, somewhere in the range of about 50 games out of the year, and you're a playoff contender. If you can do that 50 or 60 times a year, and you got 2 closers that are studs, you don't have to run them, 100 games out of the year. You can get a ton of saves. And if you get the run support, this is a winner. So again, I think that this team is going to be finishing second in the American League East, because I think that they're going to be able to plug their holes in the rotation. I think Steven Matz is going to have a really good year. Ryu is going to be another Cy Young candidate. They're going to be making some noise, and I think in July they're probably going to be making some trades to bolster their rotation, maybe their bullpen a bit, and their lineup, if it cuts their strikeouts in half, then you are looking at a potential title contender. I mean that. So those are my thoughts on the potential for 2021 in Toronto. I'd like to know what you think. If you're watching me on YouTube, let me know your comments. You can tell me how many times I said You can comment about how I had an itchy nose at the beginning of the episode. I'll be the first to admit that. And if you're listening to my podcast, you can let me know via email. I think you can actually send me messages on Anchor, or you can favorite my podcast or whatnot. It'll give me something, and if you're listening to it and you happen to want to check it out on YouTube, you can, or you want to leave me a comment there, by all means, please do. I'd be more than happy to hear what you have to say. So, with all that being said, thanks for listening or watching. Cheers until next time.